CNN is now learning that Israel was preparing to launch a new significant attack and thrown when President Trump stepped in earlier this morning. An Israeli source and a U.S. official familiar with the matter say that President Trump told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to hold off on any more retaliatory strikes. This was during the pair's second phone call in fewer than 24 hours. Let's go now live to Tel Aviv with CNN's Jeremy Diamond. Jeremy, what more are we learning? Yeah, that's right, Boris. Last night, President Trump did not succeed in his earlier conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu in getting Israel to hold off and not retaliate against Iran. We saw overnight two waves of Israeli strikes inside Iran, one targeting military sites, the other targeting a petrochemical facility after Iran fired multiple barges of ballistic missiles. But then earlier today, the two got on the phone once again, and President Trump again urged Prime Minister Netanyahu not to retaliate further against Iran. And despite the fact that Israel, according to these sources, had several additional waves of attacks planned in Iran, bigger even than what we saw overnight, the Israeli Prime Minister seems to have called those attacks off at the urging of the U.S. President. And then this is what Prime Minister Netanyahu told the public. At the moment, the fire has ceased because after we struck the terror regime in Tehran, it stopped attacking us. If the terror regime in Iran makes the mistake of attacking us again, we will respond with force. And so while we have now reached a point where both Israel and Iran have said that they will not attack each other any further for the time being, there is still hanging in the air this very real possibility of this conflict resuming once again. And that's not only because of what you just heard from the Israeli Prime Minister, but especially because of what we've heard from Iran. Iran's military command saying in a statement that should Israel attack Iran, but also should Israel carry out additional attacks in southern Lebanon, then Iran will retaliate and will retaliate with more force than what we saw in these initial waves of ballistic missile attacks over the last 24 hours. That is a very new and very concerning new red line from Iran because it goes much further than what we had heard before. Iran previously warned that should Israel strike Beirut, the Lebanese capital, then Iran would strike Israel. And that's exactly what happened last night. And so now for Iran to be saying that this red line has moved, that it's now about southern Lebanon, presents the real possibility of this conflict resuming because Israel is vowing to intensify its attacks against the Iranian proxy in Lebanon, Hezbollah, whose stronghold is indeed in southern Lebanon. And so this remains a very tense situation. That being said, in Israel, the restrictions on activity have been largely removed across the country. Students are expected to go back to school tomorrow after classes were canceled today. But again, Israel's military in the region at large remains on a heightened state of alert again because of these threats as it relates to Lebanon. Boris, it's notable, Jeremy, that Netanyahu did not actually mention the ceasefire in his statement. The U.S. attacking Iran, Iran now retaliating, a dangerous escalation in the war that's now on day 102. Tehran claiming it's firing missiles and drones towards U.S. targets. An attack after CENTCOM confirms the U.S. hit a number of targets in Iran. So this has been a back and forth, multiple explosions reported now along the Strait of Hormuz. And it all started, Trump says, when Iran shot down a U.S. Apache helicopter as it patrolled the crucial waterway. And that was a significant strike maybe at the hands of an Iranian Shahed drone coming amidst a ceasefire that was broken 2 days ago, with missiles hitting back and forth once again between Iran and Israel. The president tonight telling ABC's Jonathan Karl that this is a response to what they did with our helicopter last night. And I believe the response should be very strong, very powerful, and that's what this one is. Now, this is the first time in the war that Apache's gone down by a country whose military, right, Trump claims to have obliterated. Certainly when it comes to things like the Navy and the Strait, it's been obliterated or left at the bottom of the sea many times. According to Trump, the attack coming just hours after Trump said the U.S. would be declaring victory in Iran in the next 2 weeks. And also that there was a deal, the cusp of a deal with Iran, which is a claim, in fact, that Trump has now made at least 38 times since the war began. They're begging to make a deal. I think they want to make a deal very badly. Iran is dying to make a deal. We're going to end that war very quickly. They want to make a deal so badly. We're close to a very good deal. We're in the final throes of what will be a very, very good deal. Well, first of all, the Iranians are completely denying that they called President Trump last night and demanded an end to these strikes. Several Iranian news agencies and official channels also saying that that simply is not true. And then as far as negotiating through bombing is concerned, that's also something where Iranian officials are saying that bombing is going to achieve exactly the opposite of what the president wants it to achieve. I actually spoke to a senior Iranian official just a couple of hours ago, and he told me that from the Iranian perspective, they believe that the Trump administration needs to respect the resilience of the Iranians, also needs to respect the military capability of the Iranians as well, specifically looking at the Strait of Hormuz. And I asked that official whether or not there was a chance that the two countries would go back to war. And he said it all depends on the Trump administration right now. If they want to make a deal, if they stop firing, and there can be a deal. However, if they continue to bomb Iran, then a full-on war and return to full-on war is certainly something that is fairly possible. So right now, certainly these negotiations, still a very difficult state perspective, have said that this was a serious version of the ceasefire, what happened last night and the night before.